Everybody, and welcome back to my channel, Movie Files. Elliot here with a brand new movie review, and this time for Gemini Man, coming out to theaters this Friday, October 11th. Now, this film is directed by Ang Lee and stars Will Smith, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Clive Owen, and Benedict Wong. Now, I am here to share with you all my positives, my negatives, and let you know if something worth checking out at the theater this weekend, and ultimately give you my score of this film. But before we do that, if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel. Make sure you hit that notification bell to stay up to date with our latest reviews for TV, for movies, trailer reactions, unboxing videos, and giveaways. So definitely subscribe and comment below. Let me know your thoughts on this film, Gemini Man. With that being said, let's jump to this review. Basic premise in this movie is you have an older assassin played by Will Smith who is targeted by a younger clone version of himself. Now, starting this review off with the positives and starting with performances, I got Will Smith keying off this review. Big fan of his, been watching him since I was a kid on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, watching him in movies, and just looking at his career. It's very interesting to see when he does dramatic roles and he jumps right into action every 4 or 5 years. So very excited for this film. So in this movie, I enjoy Will Smith's performance. I think when he was asked upon to do the action, he's badass. When he needs to do the emotional moments of finding out certain reveals, things of that nature, I think he does a great job of bringing all of his talents to the big screen. And, you know, knowing that it's kind of interesting to see him play this role, and he's very believable as this retired assassin and coming to terms with his past and what he's done in the past and ready to retire, per se. I really like that aspect of his performance, but also it's really interesting to see the parallel in his real life. You know, Will Smith in the back half of this, you know, not back half, this is a new chapter for him, but 51 years old. He's now transitioning to a certain age group, and it's really interesting to see him. You know, he's had his franchise movies with Men in Black and with Bad Boys, and we're getting Bad Boys for Life coming out in a couple months, but it's really interesting that he's still looking for that franchise to kind of tie upon to maybe have a success like a Tom Cruise in a Mission Impossible. So really interesting parallel in the story where you have this man who's been dominated for his prime, and now he's entering this other half of his life. So really interesting dynamic in that parallel in the story there. So some other standouts in regards to characters and performances. You know, you have Benedict Wong, who's kind of an ally and a friend to Will Smith in this film, and he brings kind of this comedic aspect to the role, which for the most part worked. But really the standout outside of Smith for me is Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who I'm a big fan of her work. Whenever she's in a film, whether it's a movie that's just subpar or maybe not that good, she always stands out for me, whether it be a horror film like Final Destination 3 or Scott Pilgrim, or you see her in a Die Hard, The Thing, or Fargo. She's such a diverse type of actress to me, and she demands the screen. She has a presence to her that I just really gravitate to her. I just love her presence in this movie in particular, going toe-to-toe with Will Smith, whether it be action scenes or just great dialogue between the two, and I just really enjoy her performance, and I think that she is someone to keep an eye out for if you haven't been watching her career. I'm excited to see her do more action movies. We're going to see her in Birds of Prey come February, and I really want to see her in more of these type of roles, because again, she has great chemistry with Will Smith, and she's really a kick-ass actress, and I really want to see her in more of these roles, and she really stood out to me. Transition to some other positives in regards to the action in this film. For the most part, the action was handled pretty well, which doesn't come to much of a surprise when you think of Ang Lee and you think of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, but definitely some highlights for me were definitely that scene that we see in the trailer where you see the young Smith and the older Smith going toe-to-toe with bikes and hand-to-hand combat and gunfights. It was just really, really good action throughout the film for the most part. And speaking to the younger version of Will Smith, I thought that 90% of the VFX were pretty flawless in my opinion. I thought that it was for a completely CGI character. It's just crazy to see the technology where it landed, 10 years ago to where we're at now, and getting a film later this year with The Irishman with, de-aging actors. It was really well done in my opinion. Like I said, 90% of the CGI for the younger Will Smith really was flawless in my opinion. Jump into some other positives before I jump to the negatives. The story aspect, thinking of the idea of you facing your younger self, and thinking of action movies in general, like what if you saw John Wick versus John Wick, or Bond versus Bond, or Bourne versus Bourne, or John McClane or John Rambo. That concept really kind of interests me in regards to just say your younger self going against your older self, and what type of things you wish you can go back for. I really like that concept of the movie, mixed in with the idea of the technology of cloning and things that we know about in the media of them experimenting with cloning, and also just the idea, again, going back to the idea of a completely CGI character and where that can kind of land in Hollywood 20 years from now. Again, we have an Irishman where they're de-aging these amazing actors. will we get to the point in Hollywood where they're going to have a action movie or drama or comedy or horror led by completely CGI characters? So I thought that was a really interesting aspect, and this might have been something that we're going to look back and say, Gemini Man did that, and then we're going to, look back on that film. So jump into the negatives. I think this is a prime example of a film that has more style than substance. The story is very basic. We've seen this type of story before in regards to super soldiers and taking over human soldiers that are more emotional and have flaws. And we've seen the idea of a spy being kind of rogue and their government going against them. So very basic, generic type of story threads throughout the film. Actor-wise, I brought up the standouts, but Clive Owen, a very great actor, very capable actor. He did a good job for what he was given in this film. Very small role, but I thought that he was very generic and very one note. The biggest thing for me, though, is definitely the third act. And I say that because the first two acts, I was very engaged. I thought the action was well done. The story was very interesting. But once we get into that third act, I thought it really kind of missed the mark in regards to the emotional aspect that they brought to the storyline. I thought that the action was still high caliber, but very there were no stakes for me in that third act. And in particularly, I won't give too much away, but there's a surprise twist that they throw into this third act that I just thought, it just kind of rolled my eyes. I thought it was unnecessary. And then when it came to the very last scene, I thought it was very anticlimactic and very just kind of generic and very kind of throwaway the way they ended the film. And Ang Lee, I brought him up. Very capable director, love a lot of his work, but I thought that he really focused too much on the technology, the CGI character, the 120 frames per second, and all that different stuff. I thought that they focused so much on the technical aspect, they really let down the script, and I thought that kind of suffered from it, in my opinion. So, final thoughts: Will Smith, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, without them and their talent, I thought this movie could definitely be where it's at currently on Rotten Tomatoes, which is a 36%. But I don't believe the film's a 36 in my personal opinion. I would give it a much higher rating. I think it's an above average action film. It has some great action, has some really good performances, and the CGI was pretty good. So again, it's a 36 right now on Rotten Tomatoes, and I don't want that score to just deter you all from seeing this film, because again, I thought it was a fun time in the theater. Now, I didn't really touch too much on the 120 frames aspect, because I just saw my early screening, which is very basic. It was just a regular standard screen. I didn't see it in 3D, but if you saw it in 3D with the intention of how Ang Lee wanted to be presented, let me know if that was more of a gimmick or if it actually enhanced the experience for you. Let me know in the comments. So with that, I'm giving this film a 3 out of 5. I would recommend you checking it out. I know this Friday we have things on Netflix like El Camino, which I'm excited about, Addams Family, and some other things. But I think this is worth checking out in the theater, especially if you're a fan of Will Smith, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, you're a fan of Ang Lee, you're a fan of not just good, but some really great action at times. Go check it out, and when you do, let me know in the comments what you all thought of that film, Gemini Man, as well as like and share this video. Like I said up top, subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and definitely let me know what you thought of this film. Thank you all for watching this review. If you haven't already, follow us on our social media accounts, especially Instagram. Thank you for watching this video, and we'll see you in the next one.